Welcome everybody, welcome my friend to Breakfast with Sergio. This is episode number 32 and I'm so very happy that you are here. In this episode number 32, I'm going to talk about creating a compelling elevator pitch. Creating a compelling elevator pitch for your art. It's going to be good. So my friends, again, welcome, good morning. Super happy to be here on episode number now 32. And I'm gonna talk about how to create a compelling elevator pitch that also reduces friction between the person that you're talking to and the art that you make. So it's gonna be a good one. You're gonna like it. But before that, I wanna share what I have for breakfast today. Let me know what you are having for breakfast this morning. I always love to hear that. Well, today I made something super good. I made something that I had before, which you have seen it before in Breakfast with Sergio, because I love to make this. Is tortillas, which have been cut into little squares, corn tortillas, Mexican corn tortillas, and then I lightly fry them on the pan. But sometimes I like to add a twist. So today I added a spoon of ground beef, so it gives it kind of like that beefy flavor. And then I put egg white, I put spinach, I put green sauce. And then when it's all done, put also a couple spoons of beans on the side and queso fresco on the top. And that is my breakfast for today, which is super good. Let me know what you're also having for breakfast. I know I have a lot of friends who join me for breakfast here live, and some of you also watch it later on YouTube. So if you're in YouTube watching right now, thank you for watching Breakfast with Sergio. So today, my friend, I want to talk about how to create a compelling elevator pitch. Now, what's an elevator pitch? I'm sure you have heard of this before. Maybe you already have one. An elevator pitch is this idea of having something to say when somebody asks you, so what is it that you do? And you say, I'm an artist, and they ask you, so what kind of art you make, right? So that's then the answer to that question will be your elevator pitch. They call it an elevator pitch because it's a short, quick comment that you make like while you are riding an elevator, right? So it has to be good, has to be quick, has to be compelling, and in my opinion, it has to reduce friction. And I'm gonna talk about this because I never heard anybody talking about adding this to your elevator pitch in order to reduce friction. Here's what I mean. I believe there's friction between the average person on the street and art. They don't a lot of people who are not used to going to art openings, who are not used to being in contact with art, like all of us here as artists, a lot of times they have this friction, like they feel that they don't understand art, especially contemporary art. They feel like there's this separation, right? So when you have a compelling elevator pitch that will also help them to reduce that friction, I think you will also create a better conversation with that person. So let me explain. Oh, somebody's having egg whites as well. Thanks for the comments, my friends. So here we go. To create a compelling elevator pitch, what I think is that you need to do is, answer a brief question, right? You meet somebody, says, what do you do? So I'm an artist, so what kind of art you make? So then the first thing that you have to say in your elevator pitch is, a quick, very briefly, one-sentence description of the art that you make, right? And this is something that maybe some of you already have or not, maybe something you're working on, just how do you describe your art in just simple terms really quickly? And what I say, for example, and I'll do this with my own example, what I say is, well, my art, and say, well, I'm an artist, right? I do paintings based on the human figure, but they're not very realistic. They're abstract, based on the human figure, and I'm interested in the cycles of life from birth to death. So that's the kind of like the first section or the first part that I say. So I'm saying what I do, which is paintings based on the human figure with an abstract qualities on that, so the person can kind of visualize that. And what I'm interested about in my work, right? What do I investigate in my work? What's my work about? Which is, just in one sentence, I'm interested in the cycles of life, from birth to death. And also, as an added to that sentence, I would say, and also about, I'm interested in our sense of spirituality throughout that cycle, right? Or our sense of presence throughout that cycle. So that's my quick, what I would call elevator pitch. So maybe you have an elevator pitch already you know, when somebody asks you what is it that you make, you describe what you do, and not also you describe it, but you also say a little bit of what are you interested about in your art. Now, most people end right there. Most people, you know, will have an elevator pitch. Most artists, I would say, may have already, or you may have an elevator pitch in which you say what is it that you do, and you describe it a little bit, and then you say what you're interested about. Now, what I like to add to it, which is what I don't hear anybody talking about, and something that I have tested and I think it works really well, is to add what I call a hook, right? To add a hook that will reduce friction. Okay, what do I mean by reduce friction? What I mean by reducing friction is this idea that, again, when I describe what I just made, what I just said about art, about my art, you know, a lot of people may still have a hard way to understand what I meant, you know, the cycles of life and you know, kind of a sense of presence and abstract painting, you know, so they're still very abstract in their head. What is it that I'm interested about, what I'm trying to create in my work, the overall idea of my art. I'm not describing a single work of art, I'm just talking about the overall idea of my art. So a lot of people may still have that kind of abstract thought in their head of what is it that I'm saying. So I throw in a hook. In other words, I throw back a question at the person that will help reduce that friction. So this is what I would do. This is what I say. So when if we just met each other, let's say, and in an elevator, you ask me what I do. So I'm an artist. So you ask me what kind of art you make. So I already answered, right? I make paintings based on the figure, but they're not realistic. They're abstract, and I'm interested in the cycles of life from death to death, from birth to death, and also I'm interested in our spiritual sense throughout that cycle, kind of our idea of presence throughout that cycle. So then I do a little pause right there, you know, just to give him some, you know, give him a second to think about it, and then I throw the hook. Then I throw the hook that will reduce friction. So this is what I say, and I do this with a question. So I throw a question back at the viewer. I said, have you ever been in a room like all by yourself? Maybe you are reading a book or you're working really hard on something, and you are all by yourself, and then somebody else walks in the room, like maybe right behind you, and you don't hear them, but you feel their presence, and you turn around, and it's like, you know, there you are, right? Or maybe you're driving, and you're at the stoplight, just waiting for the green light to come on, and then you feel like somebody's staring at you, and you look to your left, and it's like, you know, somebody's actually, you know, with big eyes staring at you from the other car. You know, that feeling, that sense of presence is exactly what I'm interested about in my art. So that usually, you know, 9 out of 10 times, you know, starts a conversation, because everybody has had that feeling at some point in their life. We all have felt that at some point, that we feel like we are the only ones in the room, but then somebody walks in, we don't hear them, but we feel that presence and we turn around. I am super interested to explore that sense of presence that we all carry, that we can all feel from human to human. That's exactly what I explore in my art. And so when I use that as a hook, I'm reducing friction between the person and my art, because now there's a commonality, there's a common experience where they say, oh yes, you know, I know exactly what you mean. And 9 out of 10 times the person would say, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly, because or sometimes they tell me a story, or they remember something that happened to them concerned to that idea, right? So that is the hook. So you see how it's not only I'm answering the question of what my art is about and creating some sort of abstract reference to it, but I'm also adding this hook in which it's about an experience. So we all have stories, we all have experiences, and if it's a common experience, then you know it creates a great conversation. And while most of the time people will say, oh, can I have your card? Can I see some of your art? Where can I see this kind of work? What's your website? And things like that, right? Because I have created that interest, that hook, that has reduced the friction between that person and their own understanding of what art is and what art could be. And so it works really awesome. It works pretty cool. Give it a try. I think you will like that idea. See if you like it. I think it's really fun. And that's how you can create a compelling elevator pitch that reduces friction. Now, how can you do this in your own? It works with all types of work because we all create art out of our own experience, right? Nobody works in a vacuum. We all create art in our own experience. So think about it. For example, if you are a landscape artist, and you can say, have you ever been on vacations and you see this amazing view and you're like, wow, well, that wow is what I'm really interested about. For example, let's say you are a portrait artist and you can say something like, have you ever seen a portrait and you stare at the portrait and feel like it's looking at you, or you want to know who that person is? Well, that's exactly the qualities that I like to find in human beings and when I do my portraits. You can create something based on your own experience, and this works with anything. It doesn't have to be representational work. It could be even the most abstract work. Have you ever felt sad or excited, and if, how would that look like in visual form? Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. That's an example. Another one would be even if you are a conceptual artist, this could work too. Even if you are an artist working with a social issue, where you throw back a question to the viewer. So this whole idea is to create a little conversation that reduces the friction. So to wrap it up, my friends, if you came in late to Breakfast with Sergio, just to really quickly, we're talking about how to create a compelling elevator pitch that also reduces friction between the person you're talking to and their own understanding of art, so that there's a common ground in which they can encounter and look for have interest to look for further. So first, the quick elevator pitch is you say, what is it that you do, right? Really quickly, one sentence description, what is it that you do, and why you're interested about, right? To explore in your art. Very, very quickly, 2 sentences, and then take a little pause, and then next you ask a question based on an experience that could be a common experience, and that creates a hook that reduces friction. So I'm gonna wrap it up, and I'm gonna say it how I would do the whole thing to a person that I may encounter maybe today as I go into my day and somebody asks me, Sergio, so what is it that you do? I say, oh, I'm an artist. Oh, and what kind of art you make? So here we go. I would say, well, I create paintings that are based on the human figure. They are abstract. I'm very, very interested in the cycles of life, from birth to death, and kind of our own experience and our own understanding of spirituality and a sense of presence throughout that cycle. And it's kind of like this. Have you ever been in a room all by yourself? Maybe you're working on something, or maybe you're reading a book, and there's nobody in the room, but then somebody quietly enters the room, and you feel that presence, and you turn around and you're like, or oops, I know you are there. You feel that presence, or maybe you are driving and you come to the stop sign and you're waiting for the green light to come on, and you feel like somebody's staring at you. So you look at the left side, and you're like, wow, somebody's really, their eyes are wide open staring at you. That has happened to me. That's exactly, that sense of presence is exactly what I try to explore in my own art. And that's it. Wraps it up. So that's my spiel. That's my elevator pitch that always, always, always leads to a conversation, because the person will say, I know that feeling. I know that feeling. I know exactly what you mean. And now we start a conversation, or they may look further into it. So look for those hooks, my friends. Look for those ways to reduce friction, because people today, they are distracted. They don't know how to think about art sometimes, especially if they have never been to an opening or a gallery or among artists. A lot of people today feel like they are foreign to contemporary art. So we can help them find a common ground. I think we will be doing something really good in our elevator speech. So I hope you enjoy, my friend.